I had gone to the beach the other day with a friend and I was talking to her. And I just mentioned that one of my favorite quotes growing up was, "Life is what we make it." And as she stared at the ocean rather blankly, all she said was, "I just don't know where 10 years of my life have vanished." Many women, one emotion, and in all likelihood, that doesn't even sum it up. My name is Sharmeen Thomas and I'm with Indoz Tv, and this is my lifestyle segment, Let's Hang Out. In today's Mother's Day special feature, I bring to you a superwoman who has endured it all and made it to the other side in one piece, only stronger. I welcome Anu Singh. Hi Anu, and welcome to our Mother's Day special feature for Indoz TV and my segment, Let's Hang Out. Now, the last 1 year, Anu, has been a journey of self-discovery for you in many respects. But let's go back to the start. Tell us, when did you move to Australia, and give us a little sort of context to your journey?
Yep, so I came to Australia in 2005. Initially I was in Melbourne. I did my master's there in accounting. So I was in Deakin and I lived in Melbourne for quite a few years, and I only moved to Brisbane in 2017. I did my master's, then I finished my CPA, and then I was working full time, and then I got married, had a kid there, and then we moved to Brisbane 2017. So,
and you met your partner in your ex-partner in Melbourne.
Yes,
right.
Yes, we met there, and then we got married in 2011. So 3 years before that, we knew each other, and then it was a love marriage. So
right.
we lived after we got married. Obviously, we lived together. We bought a house, and then in 2014 we had our first daughter. So it's been quite a few years.
It's been quite a few years.
Yes.
And you studied accounting,
yes.
You said, because I think that sort of comes into a bit of relevance as we move forward with your journey, which we'll talk about today as well. But as someone who was married for so many years, also the fact that you knew your ex-partner for a fair few years before you got married and settled down. When is it that you sort of started seeing signs or realizing that maybe this is not going like what you thought it should be?
Yeah, and look, it's probably going to be different for obviously everyone.
That's right.
But in my journey, I realized it was a few years after my daughter was born.
Right.
I think it could be that we just got too busy with our work. We obviously bought a house, and just the financial burden or whatever you say, just that we started to just fall apart. We became, I think, more independent, we started to grow, apart and different to each other. We weren't the same people who we met, in 2008.
That's
right.
So
I think we realized it, and we probably tried to, settle differences, but I think we were just growing more and more apart. So I think for me, it happened, I would say 2 years after my daughter was born.
And in that sense, having a child might kind of complicate things.
Possibly. A lot of times we feel that, at least in India, they feel that once you have a child, your relation gets better. But for me, it actually got worse, because I think a lot of times in love marriages, what people don't realize and understand, and it comes easier for some people, but for some people, they're from very different backgrounds. So we want to, the upbringing of our child is going to be different. And
that's
everyone,
right.
like, me or him, we would want to do the, upbringing of a child in our own way. And I think that could be one of the reasons which drew us quite apart, I would say.
That's right. And so as a woman, what is it that one goes through when you're actually facing the eventuality of the situation? You've kind of decided to call it quits, or what is it that takes you to that point and gives you the courage to stand up and say, that's it, I can't do this, or we shouldn't do this?
Okay, so like I said, obviously 2 years, when my daughter was 2 years, she is 10 now. And she turned 10 this year. So for me, I think I dragged it quite long. I tried and tried, and I would think maybe I did things differently, it might work. I would do, try and give my 200%, it might. So I did my 100% to make this marriage work. For me, things changed when last year when I went to India, and my dad was he was going through cancer. Unfortunately, he did not make it, and I was with him. I was next to him when he passed away. But at that moment, I think I realized that life is very short, and I was unhappy for a very long time. And I actually that time which I was away from my daughter and obviously her dad, I realized that me being unhappy was making the whole house unhappy. Like no one was happy in the house. My daughter wasn't happy, and I've never seen her cry or that sort of tantrums that I saw in the last 1 year, just before we separated. And I think that was an eye opener for me. I thought, if I carry on, I mean, I could see her grow. She was just. I could see that we weren't close enough. We were not doing things together. We just didn't enjoy each other. And I was just stressed all the time because I wouldn't know when she would act up. And it wasn't her. It was probably the reflection that was she seeing in me, that I was always worked up, stressed. I was losing patience with her. And I think that 1 month when I was with my parents and my dad, particularly looking after him, I realized that things had to change. And it's not that I did not try. I tried, and I've tried doing different things. Nothing worked. And then I thought, okay, probably it's that time when it struck to me that the unhappiness is my marriage. That is what is bringing unhappiness in me. That is what is bringing unhappiness in my daughter's life. So when I came back, I just told my husband, that my ex-husband obviously now, that it's not going, and he obviously was thinking of the same. We've both had those talks before I went to India to see my dad. So it wasn't that he didn't know. We were quite there, but I think we had that discussion. We were going through that discussion, and this thing happened with my dad. And he just told me that, maybe just go because your family needs you now. When you come back, we will revisit. But I think by the time I came back, I had made up my mind that this needs to happen because, life is very short. I saw my dad, not that he passed away soon, but he had a very happy life. But I rather live, for whatever years I have, I rather live happily. So I think I came back and I made up my mind, it's not working. We need to have a divorce, or we need to just separate for our sanity and for our child's happiness. We've got to do that. So yeah, that was it for me last year.
That's I think something like that definitely takes a very emotional and mental toll on you, and the whole family,
Yeah.
like you said. And our kids end up bearing the brunt of it to a large extent. When you decided that this is it, or anyone in your position, what are the resources that one can or should sort of try to access when trying to deal with such a massive life change?
Yep. So I think first you got to reach out to your family, friends, because support is very important. I probably couldn't do it if I didn't have support from my loved ones. So you need to talk with them. You've got to make sure that what you're doing is right, and they are going to be around to be there for you. Because life ahead, the journey ahead is very tough. You cannot do it alone. You just can't. And then I think they're going to being, no matter where you are, but they're going to need a good lawyer, just so that, because things like, we bought a family home, we had, shared assets, and we need someone to just tell us, what's right from wrong. It's not that you want to bring lawyers in. It's just so that, and the way in Australia it works is the husband or the ex would have their lawyers and you would have your own.
Yes.
There's a concept called joint lawyers, but then that's nothing like it. You both need separate lawyers. So yes, you got to talk to your lawyer. You need to share all your private information, whether it's, you know, why you want a divorce, financial, all your for me, because I run my own business, I started my business when I moved to Brisbane in 2017. So I also had to get my business valuation done, just so that, I mean, you know,
That's an asset as well.
my ex obviously did not want any share in the business, but I still had, my lawyer suggested I had to do a business valuation. So I had to do all that. So you need lawyer, of course. I obviously had to get my tax returns done from my accountant, just so that, you know, I make sure that tax wise and all that it's all dealt with. So yeah, there are a few things that and then for some people who don't get enough support, there are a lot of, you know, legal and other support
Government
groups,
resources.
My case wasn't that bad, so I think me and him, we together decided that, you know, we're going to sell the family house. We both going to go different ways. So I moved out of the family house after it got sold, and he moved out as well. So obviously, looking at rental, you got to split the furniture and whatever else you have in the house. You together decide who's going to take what, and then you obviously move out, and then you're going to look for a nice place, secure place if that's what you need, and then you move out, really. So I mean, it's a few things to consider, but I think I had a list in you know, in my head and in a notepad where I would just tick it off, like what I need to do when, and a lawyer would guide you through that. Surely.
That's right. So
Yeah.
would it be fair to say that I think in your case you do have that clarity of mind, which is great, because I think many women sort of, you're a bit clouded when everything is happening, and
Yeah.
you don't really see what's going on till you see it one day. And I think in your case, like you said, both you and your ex-husband were able to sort of sit down and sort things out. There are women out there who don't have the ideal situation where the ex is willing to sit down and have that conversation like a grown-up. How would one go about something like that?
Yeah, and look, it all comes down to how much you're willing to take and how much you're willing to let go. Because in my case, I knew there were things that I absolutely wanted, and you've got to put your foot down, that bare minimum, you know, whether it's the custody of the child, how much you're going to keep. And we both decided we're going to have 1 week each. You know, she stays with me for a week, the other week she goes to him. So there are going to be things, little things like that, that you've got to, you know, discuss. But I do understand that it's not possible for everyone to do that. So there are, like I said, you know, there are non-negotiable things where you would say, I would not let this go. But then again, you talk it out with your lawyer, because they'll tell you, you know, what your rights are. And then if it's worth fighting, you go all in. But you do have to bear in mind that the more you're going to fight, the more legal costs are going to go up. So how much you want to pay, how much you can afford to pay. A lot of people are not financially independent to afford legal costs. Maybe the husband is, but the wife's not, because they're not working similar packages. So it all comes down to, is it worth the stress? Is it worth the costs? And then you think, no, you know, I just want my peace of mind. And some situations are even worse, where there's abuse involved, and you just think, I don't want anything. I just want, you know, just a safe and secure place for me and my kids. You just leave with what you got, you know, and then you just start fresh. So it's all different for everyone. But I think you in your head, no matter how cloudy or how blurry it gets, somewhere along the line, if you've made up your mind, and we women, we know when it's time to leave. We know it. We try, and then if it doesn't work, then it's a hard decision, but you probably make a list and then you start ticking it off. And just if all of that doesn't get ticked, even 2 out of 10 get ticked, you've won somewhere, you know. So you just move on, and yeah, you've got to start somewhere. So I would say go with that.
And you mentioned abuse and domestic violence, which is really sort of very, very relevant in today's times with what's going on in Australia itself. You know, that's literally one of the current reigning news topics with the amount of gender violence that the country is seeing. So, you know, it's you brought that up. So it's always there. And abuse is not just physical abuse.
No, it's not. There's mental, there's emotional, you know, a lot of different kinds of abuse. But what we need to realize is, no matter sometimes people think it's not physical. Yes, it's not. But then no matter what different abuse, it's not only affecting you, but it's affecting your kids as well. So you've got to be very mindful of, and not only that, there are situations where you don't have kids, but it still isn't, it's just, you shouldn't take it. It's not, and it's very unfortunate that some people are going through that, but it should not be accepted. It should not be normalized, because it is not the right way of living. And especially if you have kids, it's a very bad example to set in front of them if you accept it, because you kind of tell them, excuse me, you kind of tell them that this is normal. They see that all their childhood, and when they grow up, they just believe that this is what I've seen, this is the right way, and that continues for generations. So you've got to step up, you've got to break that legacy, and you've just got to say, no, enough is enough, I'm not going to accept it. And you've got to teach kids right, because no matter girl or boy, your kids, when they grow up, they will continue what they've seen, and kids learn more what they see at home. So we've got to be very careful what they show, what we show to them. So yeah.
I think when we talk about the struggles of being in that situation, or perhaps even as a single parent now, would it be fair to say that, you can sort of say the struggles are mental, emotional, financial?
It's all of them.
It's all of them.
All of them. Like, there's some days when I don't feel mentally strong, I feel emotionally broken. But then I see my daughter when she comes to me, and I see smiles. I see smiles on her face. I do things with her. I play with her. I spend quality time with her. And she is so happy. She's so happy. So I think in the end, you do see a change in your lifestyle, and I never did things for myself before, I thought, and now I'm doing things for me. I do things that I enjoy. I take time out to do things for me, which I think I just got so busy looking after the whole house, the family, the kids, the work. I just didn't give enough time to myself, and I realized that was another part why I was so unhappy. So I think now, giving time to myself and my daughter, I see that yes, there are hard days and there are good days, but even in a marriage, it's going to be the same, but you need to decide which way is going to be better. I think I'm better and I'm more happier now. And yes, there's going to be financial stress for people who obviously are starting out. And you've got to work it out. Like, you've got to work out quite strictly your budgets, how much you can afford, because your kids, when they come to you, they might demand a few things, or they're used to a lifestyle that they have.
That's right.
And things are going to change when you're a single mother. You can't afford things that you could afford before. But kids these days do understand, where you just probably got to sit with them and explain to them, I do what I can, I do best for you. But there are going to be scenarios where probably the dad is spending more and the mom cannot. And it's just like, yes, that's true, but you probably compensate in different ways. You give them quality time, you cook for them, you do things that they enjoy, and then money doesn't really matter, when you actually do other things for them. Because in the end, you're connecting to the child in some way or the other, and they're still close to you. So, yeah.
And I think it's quite commendable, because you mentioned earlier that you saw that your daughter was not as happy.
Yeah.
But I think that transition that you have gone through has sort of, seeped into her as well.
Yep.
Or so we hope.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, you got to be happy yourself to keep your child happy. And I can see the difference. And I mean, what worse you could teach your child that, the two people the child loves the most are unhappy, but they're living together because of them. Like, they can't be the reason for the parents to stay together.
I think that's one of the biggest fundamental generational sort of notions or mistakes, maybe. I mean, I don't want to say mistakes, to each his own, but I think that's a very generational concept, and something that I think till date a lot of elders sort of, feed that into our generation, that we've got to stay together for the kids' sake.
Yeah. And that's a very wrong thing to do, because yes, you're staying together for the kid's sake, but the kid is not happy, you guys are not happy, and the kid learns that this is how a healthy marriage looks like, that nobody's happy. But that's far from truth. The truth is, if two people are in love and they make each other happy, then they should stay together. The kid rather have two happy homes than one very unhappy home. I'm a big believer of that. And look, I'm not telling people to just go and divorce and separate from their partners. No, I'm not encouraging that. But what I do say is, it's not going to be easy. The journey ahead is hard. But if you are not happy, don't do it for your kids' sake.
Yeah.
Do not do that.
And think about it.
Yeah.
Right? So I think coming to that, there's obviously a lot of women who are stuck, maybe thinking about it, or, going through things that nobody sees, nobody knows except the woman herself. And a lot of times they'll think, oh, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, or I want to do this and I want to do that. And sometimes you take one step forward and then you take 10 steps behind.
Yeah.
How do you sort of get out of this feeling of being stuck and build up that courage to do something?
That's a hard question, because for everyone's very different. Everyone's situation is very different, and you sometimes feel you've taken, like you said, one step forward but 10 backwards. What you've got to do is, you've got to take more forward steps than backward if you're really, really not happy and if you want to go out. Yes, it's like I said, it's going to be very hard, and I was very, very fearful. Even though I was financially independent, I had all the support, I had a great lawyer, I was still scared to do this. But like I said, just looking at my daughter and thinking of a good future for her and for myself, I just had to do it. Because, like I said, I did everything to keep it together for that many long years. And no matter how much I tried, it didn't work. So then I thought I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't. I had depleted all my resources. Everything I had, I'd given in. I felt empty, completely empty from inside. And I thought, I've got to start filling up myself. And I think when you get that feeling that you're empty, that's it. You've got to take 10 steps forward and maybe one step backward instead of doing the other way.
And you just mentioned fear,
yeah,
right? So if you had to tell a woman who's going through this today, what is it that you should not fear at all?
Well, see, fear,
I'm feeling very inspired at the moment. I'm saying I'm feeling inspired on behalf of other women who, are going through not so great, situations at the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm inspired on their behalf, and that's why I ask you, what is it, because fear is something we all hold on to, intrinsically. Yeah. So what is it that you should not fear in this situation? I mean, you are out, you've made it to the other side, and I say you've made it out stronger.
Thank you. Yes.
So, what is it that you don't have to fear?
Well, fear, everyone's going to have a different fear. My fear was, how am I going to survive on my own? I've never done that. I've always lived with my parents till I was in India. I came to Australia, I lived with my sister. I've got an elder sister who's in Melbourne. She's still in Melbourne. So I lived with her. Then I got married and I moved with my husband. So I, for one, being the youngest in the family and pampered like crazy, never lived on my own. So that fear for me of living alone, doing everything on my own, whether something's broken in the house, you got to buy things, you got to manage your day and your work and just juggling. It was a lot of fear that how will I do it on my own? But I think there are going to be days where you are not going to do it. You're going to say to yourself, you've got to say to yourself, it's okay, I didn't do what I thought I would do, but tomorrow is going to be better. You've got to think that tomorrow is only going to get better. You cannot think that fear is going to stop you. You can't stop once you've made it out. You've just got to prove yourself. I don't know, prove yourself is more important than proving anyone else. I'm not out to get anyone. I'm not out to prove it to anyone. I'm just out to prove myself that I will do this, and I will do this for myself, and here I am. Yeah.
You've come out as a butterfly. Yes. You were in a cocoon for so many years.
I think, and look, I think we all want to do that. We all, whoever feels stuck, I'm sure you want to fly. You want to spread your wings. You just need to muster your courage and just do it. And don't think that it's going to be easy. It is not going to be easy. It's life. Nothing can come easy to you. But when you feel down, just pick up the phone, talk to your friends, family, loved ones, whoever, and they'll put courage back into you when you feel empty, and then you move on. So, and that's why I said you need support. Even if it's just one friend that you confide in, just pick up the phone, talk to that person, or just go to them, cry, weep, do whatever.
Get it out of your system.
Get it out of your system, and you will feel better.
100%.
So, yeah.
100%.
You've got to face your fears and do this for yourself. Yes.
Now, you had an accounting background. You have an accounting background, and you own your own business as well. Do you think that's sort of helped you to sort of navigate the financial struggles that, you know, a single parent or a single mom has to kind of go through?
To some extent, yes, because when you're renting or when you got your bills to pay and you've got a child to look after, to some extent, yes, you've got to be a little bit financially stable to support your lifestyle. But to a lot of times, a lot of people would not have that opportunity, but they would have a job, or they would, have some kind of earning, whatever that might be, and you probably know how much you can live off with that much, and that's all. You're probably going to change your lifestyle.
That's of course, I'm sure in time, everyone sort of reaches that stage where they're budgeting and managing and bringing some sort of stability. But what about kind of growing from there? Usually there's a lot of things that, investments and all that are made as a family. So is it daunting as a single mother to be thinking of doing all that? Or again, is the message is you can do it?
No, I mean, take small steps, You don't have to just go out and straight buy a house. Like, yes, you're slowly going to start saving. Maybe not now, but in a few years, you might make it. So don't think like you've got to do it tomorrow. Like, you've just come out of a very hard relationship. I personally believe, and I do read a lot of, how to cope with things, how to cope with separation, how do you, bounce yourself back up. And I think the first year, you just need to focus on yourself. Like, try and fill yourself up, do things that, make you happy. If you've got extra funds, maybe spend it on yourself. You don't have to spend it like lavishly, but even if it's just, doing small things for yourself, buying just little things here and there that makes you happy, do that. Like, don't think you want to make big investments straight away, because it's going to tie you down more and it's going to bring you financial stress. You don't want that kind of stress straight when you've come out of such a stressful situation, So give yourself time. First, be in a happy place, and then slowly start working towards your goals. Your goals could be, I want to be, in 15 years, I want to buy something for myself. I'm going to start saving, whatever the saving might be, and slowly start saving. And, you don't have to buy a 4-bedroom house, a family home that you had when you shared with your husband. You could buy, two small bedroom house, because that's enough for you and your kids, So that's what I'm saying. Don't think, like I said, your lifestyle has changed. So at least what you first need to do is do things that are important for you. And then once you're in that stage where you think, yep, I'm there, you probably go in, yeah.
And nothing is impossible from the sound of it.
No, it's not. It might take longer because you're by yourself, but it's not impossible.
And you're probably happier.
You are.
Doing
it.
And
you have clear mind, so you can make better decisions, because you know what you are, what you're made up of, and you'll probably make the right decisions, because you know that no matter what you do, you probably... See, there are things sometimes we feel, oh, I've never made these decisions on my own. I always had someone help me. My husband would say, oh, you should buy this, shouldn't buy that, and now you've got to do all things on your own. So sometimes you think, how do I make those decisions on my own? I've never made them. But yeah, you're going to make some wrong decisions as well. But you learn from them. They are your mistakes. You own it and you learn from them.
Absolutely. And you have a girl who's growing up, and, she is the best friend you need in your life.
Yes. So she is my inspiration. I just look at her and I just feel I can go get the world for her.
That's right. And see, that's a flip side sort of a thing. Like we were talking about the generational thing, where it's like you stay together for the kids, but here it is, you get out for the sake of the kids.
Yes.
So I think it's a very sort of symbolic notion, some food for thought for, a lot of people today. So we've spoken about support. Having support's really important. Having some sort of just building up the courage to see the reality of your situation, coming to terms with it, facing it, hoping that the person on the other side can sit down like a grown-up and have that conversation most of the time, if not always.
Yes.
And then, once you move to the other side of things, you kind of focus on yourself, self-love, self-care, focus on your kids, and try to make them understand not the struggles, but I would say just that everything may not be possible like it was before, but you're always still doing your best and making up for it in other ways. So I think, and then building towards your own future in all ways. If you had to tell other women watching us today, if you had to give them one message, or a couple, or two or three, what is it that you would say?
Well, I would say, don't get under pressure. Don't just live your life the way you are because, the society tells you a way. Like, the society says, yes, live this way, but they're not living your life. You living your life. So yes, once you come out, they might pressurize you to go and settle down again, but you don't have to again, because it's the last thing you want to think when you've come out of a marriage. So just live on your terms, I would say, and I would say, try and think, put yourself first before you put anyone before you, because I think especially us women, we don't tend to put ourselves first. We want to put our family, our kids, everyone in before us. I think it's high time we start putting ourselves first. We look after ourselves, like you said, self-love, self-care. It's super important, because I think that really is, that's the way to go. And you probably are teaching your kids to, love themselves as well. Because, yes, you love your kids, but you got to love yourself first. Yeah.
Absolutely. Anu, thank you so much for your absolutely invaluable insight, sharing your experience with us. I'm sure a lot of women watching this today feel inspired in different ways. Wherever they are in their mental state, I'm sure everything that you've said today will be something that will help them navigate. So thank you so much, Anu, for joining us on our Mother's Day special for Indoz TV, and let's hang out.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.